Okay, so here we are working on step 2, example number 9, trying to figure out what the conclusion is of any particular argument. We always start with doing step 1. Of course, we've already done step 1 on this example. So one of the first things I'll do is just cut and paste in our work from step 1. But if you were doing a new step 2, you would do step 1 all over again on it. We're trying to figure out if it's an argument, and if it is, we're trying to paraphrase the author's conclusion. It's really important to get into the habit of paraphrasing because you need the skill of paraphrasing so frequently in arguments that you engage with in your day-to-day life. Let me just paste in our work from step 1. We determine that this is an argument, and the author is attempting to convince the reader that customers at restaurant ought to tip servers. And that's a good first crack at the conclusion. Note that it's often the case that when we do step 1, we've started to do step 2 already because we've had to convince the reader that there is a conclusion and that there's some evidence provided for that conclusion. So this argument is clearly trying to convince me, the reader, that people should tip. Okay, people should tip. That's the central idea. Although I want to be a little more specific. It's not just that anyone should tip, but that customers at restaurants ought to tip servers, which is exactly what I've said in the work from step 1. So I just want to double check and make sure that the scope of the conclusion is right, that I think it is in fact the central idea of the argument, and that it's what the author is trying to convince me of. Yeah, and all of the claims that are made in this argument really speak to this point. The claims about what customers want, about the effects of tipping, all of them go to this point that customers at restaurants ought to tip servers. So I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's good. I think that's a good articulation of the author's intentions. So I think we've got the conclusion for example number 9.